Welcome on board, chosen one. Look who finally showed up. You came here for a reason, and that reason is already written in the way you carry yourself today, quieter than usual, sharper than ever, like something inside you has been listening very carefully to a frequency no one else in the room can hear. That is not anxiety you are feeling. That is not confusion. What sits in your chest right now, that low, steady hum beneath the stillness, is recognition. Your entire being recognizes that a turn is happening, not someday, right now, today. And somewhere, in the same moment you are reading these words, the people who spoke against you are feeling something they cannot name. A strange unease, a restlessness that visits them at odd hours. The silence you hear, that is not peace, that is fear. Their fear, they feel it before they can explain it, because the universe does not wait for permission before it begins to correct the record. They said you were nothing. They said it casually, the way people discard what they do not understand. They gave you labels: too quiet, too slow, too soft, too much, not enough. They watched you absorb difficulty and called it weakness when it was, in fact, patience operating at a level they have never been trained to recognize. They whispered in rooms you were not in. They placed bets against your future with the confidence of people who believed they already knew how your story ended. Oh, the legend needs to bow, they said. The legend needs to shrink, to apologize, to disappear so that smaller visions can feel large by comparison. They underestimated you with both hands. They underestimated your silence, your endurance, your refusal to perform your pain for an audience. And yet, here you are, unchanged in your core. Unbroken at the foundation, still standing in the exact spot where they expected to find ruins. Something changed, not loudly. It never is, not when the shift is real. There was no announcement, no dramatic moment they could point to and say, that is where it happened. The universe does not operate on their timeline or by their logic. It moved beneath the surface, the way deep water moves, invisibly, powerfully, without needing your permission or their acknowledgement. The words they spoke against you, the doubt they launched into the air like arrows, every single one of them was heard. Not by you alone, by something larger, something precise, something that measures the weight of every spoken dismissal and every silent betrayal. And what the universe heard, it is now answering. The turning has begun, and it is turning in your favor. Before we go deeper into exactly what that means for you right now, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. That is not a favor to this page. That is you paying this message back into the universe, confirming that you received it, that the transmission landed, that you are present and ready for what comes next. Do that now, then come back, because what follows is the part they hoped you would never reach. Now, back to the truth. What really happened when they spoke those words is not simply that they revealed their own fear, though they did. What happened is that the universe logged it. Every dismissal, every subtle exclusion, every moment they rewrote your value downward to protect their own position, it was registered, and the pattern that emerges from all of that, the pattern the universe now responds to, is unmistakable. You remained. You did not retaliate. You did not collapse into their version of you. You stayed precise. You stayed composed. You stayed moving in silence while they congratulated each other on a victory that was never actually theirs. That restraint is not just a virtue. It is a force, and forces that are contained long enough do not disappear. They redirect, and when they redirect, everything in their path rearranges. This is not just a video, it is a briefing. It is the truth they calculated you would never sit still long enough to absorb. It is a blueprint for understanding why the ground beneath your life is shifting right now, why doors are unlocking that have no business being opened by ordinary logic, and why the people who underestimated you are beginning to notice something they cannot explain in you, a gravity, a certainty, a calm that does not negotiate with chaos. Drop 777 in the comments right now. Not superstition, a signal. a declaration to the universe that you are locked in, that you received this transmission, that you are not here by accident and you know it. If you are truly one of the chosen ones, you already feel that pull, the quiet insistence to stay until the very last word. Honor it. We are about to break this down step by step, layer by layer, from what they said to what the universe registered to exactly what turns in your favor now and why. Let's begin. The intelligence they couldn't classify, so they called it a flaw. They couldn't beat you, so they tried to measure you. And when you didn't fit their measurements, they told everyone the instrument was broken. Think of a sword wrapped in cloth. To someone who has never handled a blade, it looks like nothing, a bundle, a package, an inconvenience taking up space in the corner. They step around it. They move it aside without ceremony. They do not feel the weight correctly because they are not paying the right kind of attention. That is what happened with you. They picked you up with the wrong hands and concluded you were ordinary because they lacked the grip required to feel what you actually were. Their misreading was never about your value, it was always about their range. And a person with a limited range will always mistake depth for emptiness, because depth is the one thing a shallow instrument cannot measure. A skyscraper under construction looks, at a certain phase, like nothing more than steel beams and exposed concrete. Raw, unfinished, somehow smaller than the space it is meant to occupy. People walk past construction sites every day without registering that what looks unfinished is, in fact, already structurally complete where it matters most. Underground. The foundation is already sunk, the weight is already anchored. What they see as incompletion is actually the stage right before the visible rise begins. They called you unfinished. They were watching the scaffolding and missing the foundation entirely. You might wonder why it mattered so much to them to label you. Why spend energy defining someone you believe is irrelevant? The answer is uncomfortable, and they will never say it out loud. You made them uncertain. Not because you tried to, because something in your presence suggested a range of possibility they had not accounted for. And uncertainty is unbearable to people who need to know where everyone ranks, so they ranked you low. Not from knowledge, from defense. Precision is not loudness. Composure is not absence. The most dangerous kind of intelligence is the kind that does not announce itself, because by the time they think to defend against it, it has already moved through the room. They catalogue your quietness as limitation. The universe catalogued it as precision in storage. There is a significant difference between the two, and the difference is exactly what is being paid out to you now. The weapon they never saw because you never drew it. Silence is not passive, it is pressure. And pressure, applied correctly and long enough, reshapes everything it touches. An iceberg moves through water, and the part of it that causes the most damage is never the part anyone can see. The visible tip, cold, obvious, easy to point at, that is what gets photographed. But the mass beneath the surface, the 90% that rides below visibility, that is what the hull collides with. That is what ends the argument before it even begins. Your silence has been that underwater mass. They were busy tracking your surface while the real weight of you was moving beneath their instruments entirely. They charted you wrong because they only measured what you showed them, and you showed them very little on purpose. Think of a river carving its path through stone. The river does not argue with the stone. It does not raise its voice. It does not demand that the stone acknowledge the water's strength. It simply continues, unhurriedly, with total commitment to its own direction. And eventually, not metaphorically, but actually and physically, the stone moves, not because the water overpowered it in a single moment, because the water refused to stop. Your silence has been that river. They are the stone. And the shape of things is already beginning to show the evidence of your passage. Ever wonder why the people who dismissed you seem so preoccupied with you despite having supposedly moved on? If they truly believed you were nothing, they would have nothing to monitor. Yet they check. They ask questions to people who know you. They pause when your name enters a conversation. That is not indifference. That is the behavior of someone who placed a bet they are no longer confident about. Your silence made them nervous at a frequency they do not have the vocabulary to describe, and that nervousness is doing work you never had to consciously perform. Anger is loud. Closure is efficient. The person who walks away without a single word of retaliation leaves behind something far more powerful than any argument. They leave a mystery. And mysteries live in the mind far longer than confrontations do. You never drew the weapon. You never needed to. Every day you stayed composed while they expected an explosion was another day. The universe confirmed its assessment. This one is operating at a different register. This one cannot be rattled into smallness. The moment they started monitoring what they thought they had already dismissed, they moved on. Or at least they told themselves they did. What they actually did was rearrange their attention so they could keep watching you from a slightly different angle. A chess player who has miscalculated a move does not immediately show it on their face. They sit back. They seem composed. But watch their eyes. They are already scanning the board, running the future forward, calculating the cost of what they underestimated 3 moves ago. That quiet recalibration happening behind a mask of confidence is exactly what is occurring in the rooms where your name comes up now. They moved the pieces with certainty. They are now counting the cost. Imagine a storm cloud, not the storm itself, just the cloud. The pressure building inside it, the temperature drop that precedes everything, the way the air changes before a single drop falls. Animals feel it before humans do. They change their behavior. They find shelter. They go quiet. The people in your life who have been speaking most confidently against you are now exhibiting that same storm cloud behavior. They have gone quieter around you. They offer comments that sound casual, but land with the weight of sentences that were rehearsed. They are repositioning. They felt the pressure change, and they do not want to be standing in the wrong location when what has been building finally arrives. You might ask yourself, should I say something? Should I acknowledge that I notice them adjusting? The answer is no. And the reason is not strategy. It is accuracy. The moment you announce that you see them, you give them a role to play in your story. Do not cast them. Do not give them lines. The greatest form of correction the universe delivers is the one where the person being corrected has to sit in the room with your elevation and find no way to claim they influenced it. Panic is not always loud. Sometimes panic is the sudden compliment from someone who never complimented you before. Sometimes panic is the message after months of silence. Sometimes panic is the way they laugh a little too carefully when your progress comes up in conversation. The exposure does not happen because you forced it. It happens because the pressure of what you have been building quietly becomes impossible to stand near without reacting. They said you were nothing, and now they are reacting. That reaction is its own confession. The universe moving pieces you were never told were in play. Timing is not luck. Timing is what the universe does with forces that have been correctly applied. Think of the seed planted underground in the middle of winter. If you dug it up in January and examined it, you would find nothing resembling what it is about to become. You would find a small, dry, closed thing, unremarkable, defensive, seemingly inert. But beneath the surface it is not inert. It is negotiating with the soil. It is becoming structurally capable of doing in spring what it could not do in autumn. The universe has been doing that same work with your situation. What looked like stagnation was incubation. What felt like waiting was preparation at a level you were not required to consciously supervise. A prism placed in the dark does nothing visible. The same prism placed in the exact position where light passes through it produces something extraordinary, a spectrum that was always contained inside the white light, invisible until the angle was right. You are the prism. The light has not changed. The angle has, and what is now becoming visible has been inside you the entire time, waiting for the precise alignment that the universe, not the people around you, controls. You might wonder why now. Why is this the moment when things begin to turn? The answer is not random. The universe does not operate on emotion, it operates on accumulation. There is a threshold that gets crossed when enough patience meets enough pressure, meets enough refusal to collapse. That threshold has been crossed. The people who expected you to have given up by now, who structured their confidence around your absence, are encountering a timeline that did not cooperate with their predictions. The universe is precise in its corrections. It does not arrive early, and it does not arrive late. It arrives when the conditions are exactly sufficient, and those conditions have now been met. Not every door that opens for you will look like an opportunity at first. Some will look like small shifts in other people's attitudes. Some will look like information arriving at exactly the right moment. Some will look like silence where there used to be obstacles. Learn to recognize the universe's handwriting. It does not use announcements. It uses arrangements. The pieces are moving. They were always moving. You simply did not have the angle yet to see how the board was being set, why you could not be bought, broken, or redirected into someone smaller. You were offered smaller versions of yourself at various points along the way. Roles that would have fit if you had been willing to shrink. Agreements that would have worked if you had been willing to disappear into them. They were not gifts. They were measurements, tests to see whether you could be redirected away from your actual scale. Think of a blade in the forge. The heat is not punishing the metal. The heat is discovering what the metal is made of. Every impossible temperature is simply the forge asking a question. What are you actually? What remains when everything soft is burned away? You were placed in circumstances designed by various forces to reduce you, to persuade you that the reduced version was the real version, and you refused, not loudly. You refused the way metal refuses, by remaining what it is regardless of the temperature applied. Imagine a wolf raised among dogs. It watches, it adapts, it learns the rhythms of the yard and the rules of the gate, but it never forgets what it is. No amount of domestication reaches that layer, and the moment the conditions shift, the moment the kitchen opens onto open land, the wolf does not hesitate, does not ask permission, does not look back to confirm it is allowed to be what it already is. That is what is happening to you now. The gate has opened. The question the universe is watching is not whether you are ready. It already knows you are ready. The question was always whether you would remember who you were after everything they did to make you forget. You might wonder whether the people who tried to shrink you knew what they were doing. Some of them did. Some were fully conscious of the transaction they were attempting. Others were simply repeating patterns they learned from their own reducing, passing along the compression without examining it. Either way, the outcome of their attempt is identical. It did not work. And the fact that it did not work is the most important data point the universe has on record about you. Ungovernable is not loud. Ungovernable is quiet, consistent, and completely immune to the version of you that other people need you to be. They tried to write a smaller story and cast you in it. You are not available for the role. That unavailability is exactly why what comes next comes to you and not to them. The turn they cannot stop because they are too late to reposition. This is the part they did not calculate. They built their comfort around a version of your future that no longer exists. Think of a casino that set the odds before it understood who was at the table. The house calculates probability based on patterns, what usually happens to people with your starting position, your apparent resources, your visible leverage. They ran those numbers, they liked the odds, they paid out early on the confidence of a result that the universe was already quietly overriding. The odds they bet on were never the real odds. They were the odds that applied to someone who stayed small. You did not stay small. And a casino that miscalculated cannot retroactively change the table. A deflected shot does not just miss its target. It leaves the target standing in a position they were never supposed to reach, untouched, clarified, free of something that was meant to end them. Every carefully placed dismissal and deliberate exclusion glanced off. It did not penetrate. And now you are standing in the exact position those attempts were designed to prevent. They cannot course correct from here. The moment to intervene was the moment they chose dismissal over acknowledgement, and that moment has passed. You might ask why they don't simply adjust, decide to align with you now instead of against you. Some will try. Some are already composing the message, already rehearsing the pivot that makes their about face look graceful. Here is what you need to understand about that. The universe has already noted what they did when they had nothing to gain by supporting you. Who someone is in that moment, the moment of your invisibility, is who they actually are. Anything that arrives after your visibility returns is not loyalty. It is calculation wearing loyalty's face. Receive it calmly, recognize it accurately, reward it accordingly. By the time they feel threatened, you are already ungovernable. By the time they try to manage the narrative has already moved. The turn is not approaching. The turn is happening, and its direction has been locked in by forces set in motion long before this moment, long before their doubt, long before they opened their mouths and told the universe exactly who they were. The panic settling over them now is not your problem to soothe. It is simply the natural result of a correction that was always coming. The coronation that needed no ceremony because you were always the one. There will be no announcement. There never was going to be. The universe does not hold press conferences. It simply rearranges the room until the arrangement is undeniable. A river that has been carving its path for decades does not one day declare victory over the stone. It simply arrives at the sea. The journey was the evidence. The destination is the confirmation. Everything you endured, every season where progress was invisible to everyone, including yourself. At times, every moment of doubt that you did not surrender to, every silence you maintained when they expected noise, none of it was pointless patience. It was the river moving, and you have arrived somewhere. Not perfectly, not without the marks of the journey, but here, present, undeniable, standing in a location your detractors told the room you would never reach. The spectrum a prism produces in full light is not new. It was always inside the white. But the magnitude of what becomes visible now, the full range that your restraint and your precision and your refusal to collapse have been containing, that is what is spreading across the room. They can see it. They cannot explain it in terms that protect their earlier position, so some of them will go quiet, some will reappear, some will offer credit they withheld when it would have cost them something. Let them. Your elevation does not require their validation to be real. It is already real. The universe already confirmed it. You might wonder what is actually required of you in this moment, now that the turn is clearly in motion, now that the evidence is visible even to those who refuse to look. What does the chosen one do here? The answer is the same thing you did when it was hard. You continue. Not dramatically, not with performance. You continue. The way water continues, with direction and without apology. The coronation is not a finish line. It is a confirmation of what was always true. And what was always true is simply this. You were never what they said you were, not for a single day. The people who underestimated you are now watching a story that has already been written reach its visible chapters. They were never the authors. They were never even editors. They were at most a form of pressure. And pressure, as you now understand completely, only ever revealed what you were made of. You remained. The universe noticed. Everything else is just the world catching up. And now we close this. Not loudly, not emotionally. Calmly, completely. You were never an exception. You were an outcome. Every season of silence, every refusal to shrink, every moment you held your position when the temperature demanded otherwise, those were not sacrifices made in hope. They were forces building toward a result. The universe had already calculated. That result is what you are standing inside of now. Feel its weight. It belongs to you entirely. But what the universe revealed to you tonight was only the first seal. Pinned beneath this video There is a deeper path waiting for you, not a book, not a course, not a document. It is a living blueprint that listens to you before it speaks. Before it opens, you will answer a few quiet questions only a chosen one could answer truthfully. And what you receive is shaped, sealed, and breathing only for the soul you are right now. No two chosen ones receive the same path. Yours is already being prepared as you breathe. Tap the pinned comment. The universe is waiting on the other side. If this met you where you are, drop a simple yes in the comments. Share it with someone the universe sent you to reach. If this hit where it was supposed to hit, lock it in.